but it's more than just a think tank. It's an opportunity tank. And I spent my life basically in public service here. I've worked for 2 county executives, 2 mayors, Tom Ridge, and he was governor and public service and all those kind of things. And all those things come together at a place like the Jefferson. And you can meet academicians, you can meet business people, you can make a whole lot of contacts.
I think we've offered about 1,200 lectures in our 15 years. I think it's gotten Erie to think bigger and better. I think it's given the community a sense of confidence that we can be the most exciting city in Pennsylvania.
I think it's an opportunity. I go back when Dr. Garvey came with this crazy idea when Ferky came on board, so I've had a long ride with the JES. And I see basically a future that's basically unlimited if we work collectively to promote the JES, to promote our community, and to promote the state of Pennsylvania.
First, I think it's not like Erie did not have a conscience, but it became more of an overt conscience to, again, challenge the thinking of politicians, social activists, those kind of things, where the organization and the people who are involved in JES, without apology, address very significant issues that affect the citizens of Erie and the region, for that matter.
So when I think about the JES, what immediately comes to mind is a communal space that invites people to expand upon their sense of self and its relation to the world around them through shared learning.
It's unique. I've not seen, I've been to well over 100 cities over my time at ULI and as mayor, and I've not seen anything like it. An organization based on democratic principles.
And to me, it's also a gathering place. It's a mecca where many different groups can come together in civic dialogue.
A vehicle for civic leadership to flower.
2 words, repeat them. And I would say it is education, 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 and community, community, community. And that is what the JES is to me.
I would say the first one is maybe 2, probably community oriented. I think that the JES is just an enormous service to the Erie community, just bringing people in for, a perspective, not just for the people who live in Erie, but also for people from, Washington, D.C., from government, politics, New York City, finance, even all around the world to come and meet the people of Erie to get a perspective that, frankly, they're probably not going to get everywhere. I think probably another 2 words that I would use would probably be intellectually curious.
What I would say, in terms of the kind of impact the JES has had, you mentioned, yes, you do bring, global ideas, big ideas to Erie. Obviously, JES has been very important in initiating and getting some momentum behind all kinds of community initiatives. But I actually think there's also the advantage of people learning from Erie. So people coming in to learn from Erie. And for me, that has been great. I have worked on the Erie Racial Justice Policy Initiative, and it's so unlike Washington in a very refreshing way. And I think just the ability to learn from Erie is also great.
I came to realize, and particularly as mayor, I came to realize the most important person in a community is a person I call a translator. This can articulate a vision that people can see a place for themselves. That's the challenge of changing, is that people are threatened because they can't see a place for themselves. So the most important person is a translator, and I think the Jefferson Society is the translator for Erie.
I think the JES is inspiring, it's educational, it's informative, it is adventurous in terms of the topics that are covered. It's groundbreaking, and I do think it's very thoughtful. So I hope that those 6 or so words sum it up. And it's a very unique a gathering. I've had the privilege of taking part in several JES events, tremendous audience, and I think that it's a very I would say unique bringing together of minds from across the political and academic spectrum. So I think it's a tremendous achievement in many respects.
Without the Jefferson, we wouldn't have the genesis of a lot of great ideas, like the EDDC, like where the city has taken its comprehensive plan. Certainly wouldn't have a partner at ECRA, and that's a shame because all those folks come through the Global Summit and they get exposure to our community. So we need that outside exposure.
The Global Summit has brought to Erie personalities such as Doris Kearns Goodwin, Cokie Roberts, the Fellows, and President and Mrs. George Bush. And this is just a small fraction of the over 170 personalities that of the most respected scholars, writers, and national and civic leaders.
It has been a great privilege and pleasure for me to be part of the Jefferson Educational Society, and I enjoyed very much the interaction with the public. I think it makes a huge contribution to the intellectual climate and atmosphere within Erie, and I very much look forward to contributing to it in the future.
Well, it was one of the early ones, and it was when my brother and I picked up E.J. Dion down at the Sheraton at 6 o'clock in the morning and drove him to Buffalo. The man is wonderful, caring, fun, and it was in the early days, so to be with a famous Washington Post columnist in my car and enjoying his company was really cool.
My most memorable and favorite event of the Jefferson was having Mayor Ashley Swearingen from Fresno at the 2018 Global Summit. One of the reasons is she was optimistic and really came to Erie really amazed at all the wonderful assets that we have, including the Great Lake. And in doing so, the next day, we were able to convene with her, a small group, and learn some ideas on how to put civic leadership and engagement front and center in our community. That prompted us to create the Thomas B. Hagen Fellowship Program at Erie Insurance, an internal program for employees, where we really help teach civic engagement and leadership with the help of our community partners. We are now on our 3rd cohort since that time, and we have many calls to action for those that are now designated fellows.
So I think my favorite moment was when George Bush came to speak with Governor Tom Ridge. When Governor Ridge got up to speak, there were thousands of people in the Bayfront Convention Center. And it was heartwarming to see.
But I think one of the most memorable events in the Jefferson is when we brought in President Bush. Many people had reservations about going to see him, but I'm glad that we all went because I think he was informative and he was engaging. He was bipartisan in his presentation. And he was incredibly funny, which is, I think, something that surprised many of us.
And I definitely thought to myself, every town should have something equivalent to the Jefferson Educational Society. In fact, coming from Northern England, coming from the United Kingdom, from a place like Erie that found itself left behind by big changes in the local, regional, and national and global economies, I felt like every town should have one as well. I mean, when I was growing up in Northern England, I was told by my father, "There's nothing for you here. You've got to go somewhere else, to find the kind of things that you want to do." I mean, I'm in a think tank. I'm working in a think tank in the Brookings Institution currently. I'm speaking to you from another think tank and academy with the Bosch Foundation in Berlin. But if I was in Erie, Pennsylvania, I could be working for the Jefferson Education Society. I wouldn't have to go anywhere at all. and you could really start generating ideas and putting them into practice and doing something for your community. Basically, the Jefferson Educational Society, JES, is making sure that there is something for people there, that there's something for people in Erie, Pennsylvania, collaborating with so many different groups at the local colleges, universities, community colleges, businesses, civic society, all kinds of civic movements, and ordinary people at the community level. I mean, definitely every city and town should have one.
What the Jefferson Educational Society is doing is the kind of thing that we wish there were in every city in America. It's the kind of thing that that frankly brings out the best in all of us who care about this country so much and believe in our role as citizens.
Because the Jefferson, the JES, has reached out to people around the country to get them to come to Erie, that was, in a very literal sense, why we first went there, for Deb to give a presentation about libraries and later for us to be part of other events there. So it does matter in a more significant way than many people in Erie may realize that the Jefferson is nationally and internationally connected as a way for people to physically be present in Erie. That certainly made all the difference for us.
It was hands down when we received the Tom Hagen Dignitas Award. In our profession, if we can call it that, we just kind of assume that no one reads what we're writing, no one listens to what we're saying. We're just kind of doing this for ourselves in our little offices, and it may well go unnoticed. So when we actually got that wonderful award, it was a surprising and surprisingly touching moment of, gee, maybe there are people out there who think we're doing something that's worthwhile. So I'm going to treasure that one forever.
Without JES, there would be less diversity of thought and people would have fewer opportunities to engage in their community.
We would be as isolated in thinking as we are geographically, and that is not good. Instead, we hear wonderful viewpoints. We may not agree with everything, but we can absorb and judge, and that is a great value.
At one time we had polio, and the world didn't know anything in terms of how to intervene, and then we had a vaccine for polio. We never want to find out what the world would be like without the vaccine for polio, because polio would return. That's how I think about JES. I'm not sure what it was before JES, but I never want to find out what it would be if JES would disappear.
JES has changed me a lot, has impacted what we do. The Leadership Academy in particular has made me a better supervisor, a better local leader. When the group comes in, we do a presentation every year to each group that comes in. So we present about local government. We talk about life in local government. We have to defend what we do every day. And that group of professionals that comes every year, they're professionals in their own right. They're difficult, pointed questions, I think at the end of the day, make us better local leaders. That's been number one. I think the Leadership Academy, without a doubt, has made me a better local leader. As has all of the discussion that goes on, the open discussion that the Jefferson brings on every topic. I think having those discussions, hearing all points of view, make me a better leader. So I think that's important, hearing all points of view, and obviously the history component. I think that most of us have learned more about history, not only of Erie, but of the world, of this country through the Jefferson in the last 15 years than many have in general. So I think all of those things the Jefferson's brought to the forefront here in Erie.
I think the JES has changed Erie by many of the programs that we've developed. First of all, you have the Civic Leadership Academy, which is bringing together a whole cadre of young people who will go on to be the leaders of the community for years to come, who are aware of how Erie works and all of how government works and all of those things.
The JCLA was a core influence, right? And also me remaining with the JES because, again, it's so important that we surround ourselves with individuals who, continue to push us to do the work. And I think that's what the JES does. It really cultivates a space for people to feel supported, for people to feel challenged, for people to grow. So I want to thank the JES for doing that important work, for partnering in that important work. Again, they're not the only ones doing it. And yet at the same time, I think they have highly enhanced and expanded upon that commitment in Erie.
The Jefferson is a partner, an advisor, and a catalyst with us. Quite frankly, not having a think tank would set us back quite far because we can't fund ideas that don't exist.
Another moment that sticks in my mind is when we went to see a session, spent most of the day with the Leadership Academy that the JES is producing for Erie. And I think it may be difficult to recognize just in Erie where this is taken for granted. It may be hard to realize how important that is. That we've seen versions of this around the country, but it really is one of the night and day indicators of whether a community has a good path forward or not, of whether they are training the next generation of leaders. So the JES stewarding this program for people from different backgrounds, different parts of the world, different roles in Erie now, and make them think they had an ongoing responsibility and a dream for Erie, I think was very important, and that is stuck in our mind often.
Fergie and team have been great strategic partners with us over the years, and really the Jefferson has really prompted us to think about the community's needs and really help move that into action.
So that's like any time I get invited to come up there, I always say yes, because it's just such a nice experience. You guys are really nice. And I think that especially, I would say that like your donors should probably know that, like you guys are as a management team are very, very good at what you do. And I really appreciate it.
I want to congratulate the team of the Jefferson. I am the leader of this organization in terms of administration, but I feel I do the least. It is our team that makes us. It is our board of trustees. It is the vision that was created by the founders that have made this organization to be a community asset. It is not a think tank out of Washington, D.C. It's Erie's think tank, and that's what makes it so much fun.
For me, as an individual, it means a lot to me, and that's why I'm so committed to it. I've spent my life as an educator and as a civic leader, and when I look at the Jefferson and all that it has to offer, it's where I really found a place. I can continue my interest in education, and I can continue my interest in civic life, and not only the interest, but be able to contribute.